guys, and welcome to this week's episode of Phdfashinista's Survival Guide to Grad School. And so today I'm going to be talking about dealing with finances. How to deal with money when you are a grad student and you're not making a lot of money. And it can be tough, and it depends on what city you live in. Some people have it harder than others. I live in Los Angeles, where the cost of living is high. Not as high as like San Francisco or Boston, but still it's pretty high. For the amount of stipend that I'm getting, it's too high, is my honest opinion. And so, while grad school is great, well, we get a stipend. We're basically doing work, slave work, for the university. We're giving them research, which is how the universities get the grant money, like the big grant money to be able to carry on experiments. And grad students are a necessity to the university, and we get paid for it. And so some people are like, why are you complaining? You're getting paid. You're not going into debt because you have a stipend. And I'm like, you know what? I actually am going into debt. I get paid, but I can't. It's not enough to survive. I mean, I barely make it. And the amount of stress that I have from financial problems, from financial obligations, it sucks, and it adds a stress onto you that you didn't think you would have. It's an extra source of stress that kind of sucks. And so my video today is going to talk about how to kind of budget and how to kind of reduce that stress a little bit. And so depending on where you live, the amount you pay for rent can be pretty expensive. In Los Angeles, the rents have been going up consistently every year. And if you can find a roommate to split the rent, so you have your own bedrooms and you split the total rent, that's great. You can be paying less than $1,000 in some cases. But if you want to live in a one-bedroom apartment in Los Angeles, you're looking at over $1,000, over $1,200 now. I don't think you can find anything less than $1,200 a month, which that's a big chunk of my paycheck. Like, once I subtract my rent, that leaves very little money to pay my credit card bills, to buy groceries, to go out and hang out with friends, to go out to eat if I want to go out to eat, if I want to go shopping, stuff like that. It's not a lot of money to live on, especially when you have payments, like you got to pay utilities also. That's not usually included in the rent. You got to pay, I bought a car, so I have car payments. I have a loan that I'm paying off and stuff like that. Stuff that you have to pay and you can't put off and be like, oh, well, I can save money here. I can save money there. Some of these expenses aren't optional. So my biggest piece of advice is get a roommate. That way you're paying less for rent, so you're saving more money, but sometimes having a roommate's not an option, so having your own place, a one-bedroom apartment, is easier, and it's a little more stability on your mental side if you can't deal with a roommate, but then you start racking up the bills, and you're paying a lot more for daily life. And so that's a problem that I've come across, is I can't afford stuff. So what I did first is I cut out cable. I didn't need to pay for cable because cable is expensive. And so what I did was I started subscribing to Netflix. It's $8 a month, which is a lot cheaper than paying $50 a month for cable. And to be honest, I don't really watch TV. Like, I have cable right now because it's included with my rent, but there's nothing on most of the time. So it's like, why am I going to pay $50 a month for TV when I don't watch it? Most of the channels that you get, I'm not interested in. So unless you're a big sports fan or whatever, you love your TV shows, cable is the first thing that I would cut. I invested in a Roku. You can also get an Apple TV, and it does the trick. You can watch free movies and TV shows on Netflix or Hulu or whatever subscription service you have. If you have Amazon Prime, you can watch some free TV shows and movies that way, because there's also a Roku app or Apple app for that, for Amazon Prime. And so that's one of the big ways I cut some of my expenses. The second way I cut my expenses is I started meal planning. I found myself going to the grocery store at Ralph's, which is the local grocery store that's closest to me, and I like Ralph's the best. And I was spending over $100 a week on just myself. And it sounds really ridiculous, and everything's more expensive in LA, which, yeah, I get it. But spending $400 a month on groceries for just myself is way too much. And I was throwing away food because I wasn't eating it and it was going bad. I was still eating out, so I not only was paying over $100 a week on groceries, but I was also adding onto that cost because I was eating out. Or I would be too lazy to cook food, so I'd just order something. I'd order takeout, or I would go get drinks with friends and start racking up these big restaurant bills and stuff like that. So what I did was I started meal planning. Not only has it helped with my health, but it's made my grocery bill go down significantly. And depending on the week, some weeks I only spend $30 on groceries. Because stuff that if you buy stuff in bulk, you can reuse it for the next week. So there's some weeks where I spent like $60. There was one week I spent over $100, but the stuff that I haven't used, I've been using for the next couple of weeks. So you can save significant amount of money if you meal plan. So basically what I do is I plan out my meals for the week, and then I write a grocery list of exactly how much that I need of each thing. So say I want to make, my go-to is like ground turkey with veggies and sweet potatoes. And I know I'm only going to eat half a sweet potato with each meal, so I cut the sweet potato in half. So I only need 2 sweet potatoes for 4 meals. There we go. I don't need to buy 3 sweet potatoes. I need to buy 5 sweet potatoes. I'm only going to buy 2. That way, they're used. They're not going to waste. They're not just going to be sitting in my kitchen and go bad. The same thing with other foods, fresh foods, stuff like that. And I found this is the trick. If you are shopping fresh, it's usually a lot cheaper. And you don't have to buy organic. I mean, I wash everything. And if you shop at the perimeters of the stores, I go to the produce first, and then I go along the aisles, the side aisles to the meat. That's how my store's laid out. I go to the dairy and the milk and stuff like that, and then I go around. So I'm shopping on the outsides. The insides are all where all the processed food is, and that's all where the unhealthy stuff is. That's where you're going to start racking up your grocery bill. So reducing grocery spending and not wasting food. That's a big way to save money. Setting aside, I've been trying to save like $50 to $100 a month. So when I get my paycheck, I automatically transfer some money, $100. Some months I can't do it because I'm spending way too much, or I have too many bills. So I'll move like say $50 or $100 over to this savings account that I opened that I told myself I can't touch. That way, if I have an emergency situation, I have some like easy cash that I can use to pay. For example, I have to pay taxes. It's kind of a lot, and I don't have the money, so I have to dig into that pot that I've been saving, which sucks, but I mean, that's what it's there for. Those are my main things. And I've just started going through and kind of figuring out what I've been spending my money on. I look through my bank statements online. Everything's itemized. And I see myself paying for online yoga videos that I don't do. I see myself subscribing to Ipsy Glam Bag, $10 a month. It's only $10, right? But like if you're getting it every month, that's $120 a year. Or I randomly shop on Amazon for this thing because I decide I want this thing. Or I'll randomly shop at Forever 21, or I'll do random online shopping, which I end up spending $90 sometimes. That's $90 right there of stuff that I don't really need. So I try to limit myself on things that I like definitely need. And I've cut a lot of costs that way. So even if you have them there as a luxury, but if you're not using it, don't pay for it anymore. So I quickly unsubscribed to all these things that I was doing extra that I wasn't really using. I wasn't really getting any benefit out of. And basically just like budgeting. Like knowing that out of my paycheck, this whole amount of money is going to be taken out. That leaves me, say, $500 for the rest of the month to live. I need to factor in a certain amount of groceries that I can spend on, a certain amount for pleasure, so stuff that I can go out and hang out with friends, certain amount for the utilities and the bills, and a certain amount for paying my car payment, or a certain amount for, okay, this month I can spend $50 on shopping instead of nothing. So those are just some tips on how to budget. So how to save some money. You gotta budget. You gotta be careful with it. it can become really, really stressful when you can't afford to pay things and people are expecting you to be an adult, but you're in this pseudo-adult mode where you're still in school, but you're expected to pay taxes, you're expected to pay all your bills, you're expected to pay your rent, you're expected to go grocery shopping, you're expected to go hang out with friends and have a good time, but yet, where is this money coming from? And sometimes it's not a bad idea to get a loan, because if you really are in debt and you can't afford to pay things, it sometimes might be better just pay off your high credit card interest rates with a loan and then paying back a lower interest rate. So don't feel bad if you are struggling with finances, because that's normal. I'm going through it. I know a lot of grad students that are going through it, so you're not alone. So unless you're super lucky and you find an apartment or you live somewhere that's the rent is super cheap, kudos to you, and I'm jealous. But for those of us that live in cities where the rent is extremely high, it's really unfair, but a lot of our paycheck goes to rent. But rent is an important thing because you need a good living space. So yeah, those are my tips on how to save money and how to deal with financial stress during grad school. I'd love to hear any tips and tricks that you have to save some money, or if you've had to deal with financial stress or had any financial problems in grad school. Definitely share it below. I'd love to read your advice and your suggestions, your story. And if you have any other topics that you want me to talk about, please also leave them in the comments below, and definitely subscribe up above if you want to get notifications when a new video goes up to talk about. So yeah, I'll see you next time and have a good week. Thanks.